He's out of control. Welcome to Waveland for Tim Farmer's Country Kitchen in our outdoor kitchen.
I like it.
All right, tonight we're going to have Burgoo. How many people know the history of Burgoo or know something about it? Anybody? There are so many stories, it's almost ridiculous. So if you really start doing some research, most people claim it's from Kentucky. Illinois has some folks that says that's where it came from. They can't have it, it's ours. So anyhow, Burgoo, the word Burgoo, where'd it come from? A lot of people think it's, you know what ragu is? A French thick stew. Now you start looking back and you start trying to find some history and trying to nail it down. It's really, really tough. There's supposedly, you remember Morgan's Raiders who came through during the Civil War? He had a chef, a French chef with him. And they couldn't get any meat, they were having trouble. So they went out and shot crows and blackbirds. Now their chef was a Frenchman. His name was Gustave Joubert. Now this guy, there's all kinds of stories about this guy. They said that at some point he was actually cooking after the war for Buffalo Trace. He would make his famous Burgoo there. Now some people say he had a speech impediment, and when he said bird stew, it sounded like Burgoo. Other folks said that they didn't understand his English and that it was. Anyway, it's kind of a mystery. But this cat, this Gustave, he was the one who started this supposedly, and he cooked for Morgan's Raiders when they were tearing through the countryside. They tried the stew, the bird stew or Burgoo. They tried it and it was so good the officers ate it and the enlisted men got none. Now that's just mean. But apparently it's fairly good. So we'll have to kill some crows and blackbirds next time. Let me check my pan. So, there are all kinds of rumors, all kinds of folks will argue and say that they have the best Burgoo in the world, but the main thing that to remember about Burgoo is you don't want walnuts in it.
Yeah.
So we'll have to watch for that.
That's right.
Now when Andrew Zimmern came, he heard I made Burgoo, and so he came down. He's a nice guy, and they had 1,500 people with him and we were standing out in the rain cooking Burgoo. And he said, well, I heard there's not too many rules, but it's more than one meat. Most of the time it's 3. If you really look back and start digging up the history, it's 3. Today, I've cooked me some rabbit down, okay? And I've cooked that down. What I did is I took my rabbit and I just browned it. And I cooked it in chicken broth. Salt, pepper, a little bit of bouillon, and then the broth itself came off of that. That's gonna be my base. Now I cook that till it's falling off the bone. That's gonna be part of my stew. How about some wild turkey? Anybody? You don't have to smell that, you know what that smells like. And I have here some of my venison, which I shot last year. If you watch, how many people watched last night's show? You recognize this from last week?
We never made our soup.
We never made our soup, so we're gonna put it in a Burgoo. So the ingredients are whatever vegetables you have. Now, many times this Burgoo, people would come together and whoever had, maybe in their garden they had a good year for cabbage. Somebody else might bring some tomatoes. Somebody might bring some rabbit. Somebody might bring this, that, and the other. And they come together and they pop this stuff in the pot. And I think in the end, one of the rules they have for Burgoo, your spoon should stand up in it. Anybody like a thick hearty stew like that where your spoon stands up? That's what I like, I'm just saying. I'm gonna put a little bit of oil in here. Let's go ahead and, Nick, if you want to squeeze in it, about 2/3 of it.
2/3.
We'll get that browning. Now I do want to cook my deer meat. If it's ground, and in this particular instance, I didn't process this, so I want to make sure that it's cooked good. I will cook my venison mighty good. All right, now we're going to take our onions, which you got to have onions. I'm scooping my meat off to the side. Now the thing is, Burgoo, if you did it like they say it in the books and you let it cook for 24 hours, and they usually have a big old cauldron, it would take forever. So that's the reason I already have the turkey pre-cooked, the rabbit is pre-cooked, it's falling off the bone. One time years and years and years ago, I came in from work when I was working for fisheries at the Department of Fish and Wildlife, and I had caught an 8-pound trout, huge, monster trout. So I was carrying it up to the house, and Raoul, the next door neighbor's father, he was a French chef. I didn't know anything about this guy. He comes running up, hey, what you got? I said, I got a trout. What are you gonna do with it? I said, well, I don't know. I said, I was thinking about smoking it. Oh, no. So he took this trout, and I was cutting off parts and throwing them away. No. He kept the head, he kept the tail, he kept the fins. He made a stock out of it. he takes red wine, which you don't think about with trout, and I'm not a huge trout fan anyway, but he takes this magnificent animal and turns it into the best thing I've ever eaten in my life. And I don't have that recipe. After that, everything Raul said, I watched. His name is Raul Dupree. And so he started showing me all this stuff, and I was already cooking. I'm crazy about cooking back then anyway. And then he starts showing me these sauces. You know, the French are all about the sauces. And so we became great friends. And then he took me under his wing and started training me. And, you know, would let me smell stuff, put his hand over my eyes, let me smell stuff. But he was a special human being. Now, what I've got now is some yellow looking sweet onions, and my meat is starting to get a little brown tint on it. If everybody wants to look before I go to the next step, that's where we're at. So remember this that we passed around? And I'm gonna pour some of this in here. And in a minute, you're gonna start smelling something. Now, do these look familiar? You remember us just a few weeks ago putting these up? You remember those? We took these off the shelf today. Now, I'm a big fan of tasting as you go. What this kind of cooking adds that you can't get inside is the smoky flavor. And I'm using all hickory. I'm using all seasoned hickory. Now, at this point, I'm gonna put our fresh tomatoes. Oh, you can't use tomatoes in cast iron? Yes, you can. I have put, again, I put some broth cubes in my rabbit. I always do that to get that good stocky flavor, and I don't like to put a bunch of salt in it because that has plenty.
That's just meat and juice. All the bones
That's just
are
meat
out.
and juice.
Yep,
Thank you very much. So this is ready to go. Thank you, Nikki. Oh man, it's gonna be good. You know what next, Nikki? I think the cabbage.
All right. How you want that cut?
I would say squares like that.
So,
Yeah.
So
then,
down like this?
Yep.
All right.
Perfect. So we have deer and rabbit so far, onions, tomatoes. I'm gonna,
Is that good?
Yeah, let me see where that goes. To me, who doesn't love cabbage? Does everybody like cabbage?
Yes.
I love cabbage. I just love cabbage. Now, with any dish like this is where a good chef comes in and says, okay, Tim, you need some salt, you need some sweet, you need these flavors to kind of bang around your mouth. So Raul started showing me things like this. If you got a soup with any kind of stock in, especially this kind of soup, hey, get some red wine. That's your tart, yeasty kind of taste. Then you want something sweet. So Nikki, do we have any red currant jelly?
Shoot, we don't. I didn't think about red currant jelly.
Does anybody have any red currant jelly on them? Anybody? Let me see. Do you really? Perfect. Perfect. Stand up. Yeah, you gotta have some of this. Now watch this. You think I can open this?
You got it. Now you need a spoon, right?
I need a spoon.
Is there little spoons over here?
Now watch what she's doing here.
much
She's
you
gonna
want?
put probably, let's put 3 of those in there. Then we're gonna do some red wine. Now that's Raul. That's pure Raul. The flavors. You've seen me do a condensed red wine with red currant jelly. Let me tell you what. And we're cutting up the other vegetables fairly small
Do you want
so
your
they'll
turkey
cook quicker. Yes, please. She's gonna drop that turkey in. That turkey's from Greenup County. He was out there minding his own business. I was hiding behind a bush, making all kinds of dumb noises, and he believed it.
Are you ready for carrots too? Throw them in?
I'm ready. Now, there's one other ingredient here in a second that is the trifecta. Okay, when I did the red currant jelly, remember this. You're gonna be the most popular person at deer camp or wherever you're cooking any kind of stew. You got the red wine, you got the red currant jelly. What else do you need? That stuff is magic. Better than bouillon?
Oh, yes.
Those 3 things together are magic. Put a big old honkin'.
That good?
Yep, that's good. At this point, you better start tasting because we got a lot of things going on in here. So that also adds some more salt. Let's see where we're at here. Whoa, we got that part. So we have the basics right here. Just a few butter beans.
You sure those are good?
You want to put them all in?
Yeah.
It's up to you.
Those are good.
Sugar. You did not see this. Don't forget your sugar. Raoul had it in his pocket. He said it was against the law in France for a famous chef to have sugar in his pocket. But he did it. And he balanced it back and forth. You know, if you get something too salty, oh no, what are you gonna do? But the only thing you do, put a little sugar in it.
That's good.
Oh yeah.
I make dip with it. It's good.
So this is gonna give just a little bit of sweet that we need. Now the reason I put that in, it has a little vinegar in it, and it had that little tart thing that I was looking for in there. How many people have used chow chow in soup beans or? I love chow chow. You know what it needs?
What? It does. Pepper would be good in
Where's
it.
Glenn
I like
when
pepper.
you need him?
I know.
So now we're gonna let that cook a little while. If y'all wanna get up and stretch your legs, move around a little bit, we'll take a short break. Bobby Joe Ellis.
Yes, sir.
About time we come out here again. We haven't seen you in a while.
Been a while, hasn't it?
Beautiful fall garden you've got going here.
Well, thank you.
You know, most people, not most people, but your casual gardener thinks that in the spring you start your garden and about now you're done.
No,
Not Bobby Joe.
no.
When do you start thinking about planting your fall garden?
Fall garden, I'll usually put it about the second week in August.
Second week in August. Now what are you gonna plant?
Broccoli, cauliflower, and cabbage.
Now I'm looking right here at some of the prettiest broccoli that I have seen in a long time. Beautiful cabbage, and they're not bitten up like the spring cabbages.
Now, that's the reason I put out the stuff in the late fall,
Now-
where it's maybe eat up.
Again, we're going to refer now to a segment that we did not long ago, the old-fashioned way to store your cabbage. You'll dig a hole right here. That was interesting itself. If you want to refer back to that, that's how you store it for winter. But this over here, cauliflower coming on, you still got a few tomatoes too.
Yeah, that's still got tomatoes. And the cauliflower hadn't started producing yet. It's about 2 weeks behind the others.
You introduced me to the poodoo bucket,
Okay.
and we've got alpaca and we've got sheep, and you talk about taking that manure,
Yeah.
put it in your rain bucket, and you get a pretty potent mixture of poodoo.
After about 7 days, you can start using it.
Now
The
you
water will.
have been using chicken.
Right.
I bet that smells good in the hot summertime.
No. It
Well,
doesn't.
run Lois out of here.
And I may go back to the cow or something else after this year.
Just a little ripe is what you're
Yeah,
saying?
right. Yeah.
But you say about every 3 weeks you'll come over here and pour some of that around the base.
Yeah, so around the base of it. Yeah.
So instead of 10-10-10, use chicken.
Right.
I like where you're going with that.
It's cheaper.
It's cheaper.
Yeah.
It may not smell as good. You may want it downwind excuse me,
No wind.
not downwind from your house. But beautiful broccoli, beautiful cabbage, beautiful. Looks like you might have some greens over there too.
Yeah, and the greens on the other end of this.
Uh-huh.
We have froze a lot of greens in the last 2 or 3 days.
Freeze is the operative word for today, because I know Lois is in there taking some of this fresh cabbage, and she's going to make.
Freezer Slaw.
That's an old-fashioned thing. You know
Yeah.
what? What do you like your freezer slaw? How do you like to eat it?
Well, we usually take the cookouts and put it on, kind of adds to your hamburgers and hot dogs and things like that when you're cooking out.
So basically, she takes this, puts it in a small container, enough for a get-together,
Yeah, right.
and boom, she takes it to the cabin in the woods, and
Right.
y'all are chowing down.
Yeah.
Well, I tell you what, Let's go inside and see what Lois is doing.
Okay, let's go.
We're back in Lois's kitchen. I always love coming to your kitchen because it always smells interesting. There's always good stuff. Bobby and I were wandering around the garden, and he was showing me his greens. And so this is like the bonus part of today's. This is like the extra. These are greens.
Right.
And they're ready to go. This is like a serving enough for, what, 4 people?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Tell me how you do that.
Well, when we bring in lots of them to freeze, we wash them to begin with.
Get your critters off.
All right, get the critters off.
Now you know they boil down to nothing. So he just keeps adding it and adding it and adding it until he gets a full container. Then you boil it down for a couple hours.
And then we boil them for a couple of hours until they're good and tender. And then, of course, they have to cool. And then we bring them back in and drain them completely.
Put it in quart containers. And you got that right there.
That's right.
And you said a little canola oil and salt and you're good to go.
A little canola oil and salt is what I put in them. And
You know what
we
I do,
don't
don't you?
ever have any to throw away. What do you put in them?
Bacon grease and onions and then a little more bacon grease.
Well, I may have to try that someday.
Just a little bit.
I'm sure that's what my mother and my grandmother did.
Oh, yeah,
but
Lord.
I have a cardiac patient
Yeah,
husband,
yeah.
and they taught me how to cook with canola oil, and that's what I've done since '89.
You do what they tell you to do.
That's right.
Because I'll probably have to go to the canola oil here for long because all the stuff I've been eating.
Well, they told him not to eat eggs more than 2 a week. He eats 2 every morning, and has for a long, long time. So
Hey, man's got to do what a man's got to do.
that's right.
But the real reason we're here today, that was the bonus right there. That was a good bonus thing too, is Freezer Slaw. That's an old-fashioned thing.
We're into that now that the cabbage is fresh in the fall garden. So we've been making some of that today and got a little more to make.
And you know what I really like about this? First of all, you got all fresh vegetables to put in this.
It's very easy and doesn't have a lot of different things in it.
Now, how long have you been doing the Freezer Slaw?
Oh, we've been doing Freezer Slaw ever since we've been raising a fall garden. We make our sauerkraut in the spring, and then we do the Freezer Slaw in the fall.
So, what, 20 years, 30 years?
No, not that long. Maybe 10.
10 years? What turns you on to this?
Well, of course, we really like coleslaw, and I just saw some recipes, and I thought, well, I'll give it a try, and it was really a big thing.
Usually 1 bucket, do you? Or sometimes you have to take 2?
Well, usually I just take 1, and if I take 2, then we have a son-in-law who loves to take that leftover home with him, so.
Okay, let's talk about how you make this. It sounds fairly simple, but I've already tasted it. I've already snuck in there, and it's absolutely beautiful taste. It leaves a great aftertaste in your mouth. What do you do to make this?
Well, you just bring in the fresh vegetables from the garden. I have 3 vegetables in it, a carrot, a green pepper, and a head of cabbage.
So if you're doing 20 of these or 1 of these, that's your basic recipe.
That's my basic
one
recipe.
1 carrot to 1 pepper per head of cabbage.
Right.
Gotcha.
And then there's a dressing that you put together and bring it to a boil. And then you let it cool to lukewarm before you add all your vegetables into it. And
What is that now? What's your...
it is 2 cups of sugar, 1 cup of vinegar, a 1/4 cup of water, a teaspoon of salt, and a teaspoon of celery seed.
Now, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to get myself right out of the way. I'm going to watch you make this. I'll talk to you from over there. I'm
Okay.
taking this with me. Don't
All right.
We're just talking. That smells fresh. Everything about it smells. I already know what it tastes like because I already had some, but I want some more. So once again, that's not to confuse. You let that get room temperature before you pour your stuff in because you don't want to cook your vegetables.
Right.
That way you get that fresh taste when you open this up. Oh, wow.
That is most excellent right there. Oh, thank you again.
You're very
People love you, Lois.
Oh, well, very good.
They love your stuff, and we do too, so thank you very much.
Well, you're welcome.
Thank you all for being here tonight at beautiful, historic Waveland. Next to the walnut tree. Nobody got kabukied.
That's right.
That's a good thing. Thanks for being here. And remember, if you want to be on our Facebook page, Nikki, is it impossible?
It's really hard.
How do you
hit
do it?
like.
That's it?
You like. I
All
got
I do
that
is hit
down.
like.
You hit like.
Now, also, how many folks here watch our show on YouTube if you forget to watch it on KET? Several. Also, hit the little red button. That way, anytime anything new comes out, you're the first one to know. And now we're getting ready to have some Burgoo. Mrs.
right.
Farmer?
That's right.
Until next week, it's all about,
You should make them say it.
oh yeah, it's all about
Good times, good friends.
and good eats. We'll see you next week with a brand new Tim Farmer's Country Kitchen.
To order a cookbook, please call 502-319-0487 or email timfarmerck@gmail.com.